to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everyone for coming tonight. The first order of business is public comment. We're going to receive oral communications from members of the public. Members of the public may address the select board for up to 3 minutes. The select board shall not engage in discussion on topics raised during public comment but may choose to add the topic to a future agenda. This agenda segment is going to be limited to 15 minutes. Before I entertain any public comment, I kind of want to give a little, we're a new year now, we have just came off of a new election, and we have almost a new fiscal year coming up, and I want to provide a little bit of guidance around why we have public comment that way, because it's not clear to everyone. When we meet together and we vote to open, we're now a public body, and our open meeting laws or our rules of order allow us to only speak to items on a posted agenda that's been adequately posted 48 hours prior to a meeting, so that the townspeople are aware of what their elected body is going to be discussing and voting and moving on. If public comment is allowed free speech, anybody can come in and talk to us, and we engage in that and we deliberate outside of a posted meeting on a topic that you weren't aware of, it's fundamentally wrong to our democracy. And that's why we don't allow public comment. We'll listen to it. If it's something that we deem of value, we will add it to a future agenda and we can discuss it then. But that's why there's no civil discourse back and forth amongst the board and stuff. It's a violation of our open meeting law. So I hope that's clear. And so with that being said, is there any public comment today?
I always get up.
State your name and address, please.
Kathy Downey, 54 Main Street. First of all, congratulations, Alicia and Jeff, on your election.
Thank you.
And thank you to overall select board again for this past January for voting overall to restrict the use of rodenticides, eschars on public lands. So as you know, at town meeting, we were thrilled that the vote to restrict them on privately owned and municipal properties passed overwhelmingly. So, and thank you for helping us shepherd that through that. And we're really looking forward to tonight's your procedural vote to get this off to the State House, because as you know, Senator Kastner, who's in attendance at the town meeting, she offered to craft this into a legislative bill to get this moving. So,
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other additional public comment? Okay, seeing none. Grants, gifts, and donations. We have a council on aging gifts totaling $95, and they're from Alva Goldthorpe, Angus and Julia Sampson, June Brogan, Susan Hay, and Dave Winters.
Motion to accept. Second.
Is that Dave Winters? I think it's a typo. W-I-N-T-E-R.
Yeah, apologies.
That's okay. Thank you.
Can we,
Discussion?
discussion. Give thanks for each and every one of them who has given a significant amount.
Yeah.
Instead of just bulking them all in the same.
Well, the total is $95 for
Correct.
all of them. So, I believe the Council on Aging does.
Cindy Currier sends a thank you note from the Council on Aging to every person that's on this list, every person who donates.
It would be nice for the public to know, as we sit here, to give special thanks for every dollar donation that every single person gives, instead of putting them into one group. And I know, Bill, that what you're saying is, but not everybody sees that information.
So, you're not saying thank you, you're saying, because we thank them after, that you're saying you want to itemize who gave what as
Correct.
far as the $95 goes. Dave, do you have that amount?
Yep, it was in your packet.
Yeah,
Oh,
It's in our packet.
Okay, do you want to read it, Leslie?
Thanks. Thank you. Alba Goldthorpe, $10. Angus and Julia Sampson, $20. June Brogan, $30. Susan Hay, $10. And Dave Winters, $25. Thank you, each and every one.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Okay, we have a Green Communities Grant Acceptance of $133,950 from the Massachusetts Green Communities Division of the Department of Energy Resources.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion. Martha, do you wanna?
Congratulations, Martha.
Yeah, why don't you come up and
You,
explain?
you've worked very, very diligently
Well,
on
this
this.
was really a team effort among many people starting years ago, but this is our designation grant from the state for becoming designated green communities. Green community, we're working now with Cece Gerstenbacher at MVPC and James and a few other people to try to actually develop the project for this grant. So, but it's really thanks going back as far as Julie and Annette and Kristen played a huge part in pulling all this together, and Cece and I. It's been a great group effort, and it's wonderful to actually join the green communities. So, thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from Martha? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Rip the Band-Aid off. Okay, I have a donation of an Adirondack chair by Rob Farden.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, discussion on this.
Where's it going?
It's a very good question. So this is a
And that color, I will tell you, is called aubergine.
aubergine. Eggplant.
Eggplant.
I believe it's gonna go down the island somewhere. David, do you,
We don't have a specific home for it as of yet, but the DPW has committed to maintaining it.
yeah,
So once we go through this process, we'll figure out where to locate it.
but my guess it will stay on the island somewhere, considering it says Plum
Hope
Island.
They want to put it into highly visited areas so that people can continue to take photographs,
Yeah, makes
My
sense.
guess it would probably go right by
the center.
in the parking lot, walking back and forth to the beach. That would be my guess, but I'm
Well,
gonna leave it.
in his letter,
the DPW.
Rob details he'd be happy to move it to the entrance to Center Beach,
Yeah,
over near the green picnic table, a spot where people will take pictures and post socially. So that's his intent, and I think James is gonna look at a good location.
Yeah.
If not this.
And they said they're gonna maintain it?
Yes.
They'll-
yeah, they can do it. That was my first question.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The Newbury Garden Club, we have a donation of a lilac tree in memory of Cheryl McCarthy. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the donation of a lilac tree.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Erica, you're here. Do you want to come up and speak to this at all?
Erica Swanson, I'm the secretary of the Newbury Garden Club. Cheryl McCarthy was a dear member of our club for many years. She was also very involved with the Newbury Town Library, and she sadly passed away earlier this year in February. We thought that this would be a fitting tribute to memorialize her in a way that was meaningful both to her family, to the garden club, and to her activities at the library. So we have researched and decided the type of lilac to purchase. We will take care of that. We'll take care of the planting of it. And all it really needs is a sunny area. And I think we've got plenty of that at the library.
Great.
Do you have any questions for me?
Does the board have any questions?
What color?
Couple of knitting needles out there.
Yeah, there should be.
What color?
I believe it's gonna be in the purple family, yeah.
Can we do some kind of plaque or something in front of it, on the ground? And I know that's not for you to answer, but it's just an,
No, it's
it's just,
their-
it's
their
just an
donation.
idea that I have so that it, I mean, over time, I can see where, you know, people walking by that aren't gonna recognize that that's exactly what it is. And I would like to have that kind of memorialized somehow, so that people do recognize whose lilac it really is.
Yeah, we would like that as well.
It's a great idea.
We don't have currently any funding for it, however, that is something that we can look into and, you know, see what we can scrap together.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, and I think the DPW and the library, the new library director, they can work with you. If there's anything you need from the DPW, and they can help you with making sure that the location's the right place and there's no wires underneath or anything, so
Dig safe, yeah.
they'll do all that stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I'd like to motion that the plaque or something be funded by the town of Newbury, and that way we will ensure that something appropriate will take place.
And it always will be taken care of.
Right.
Just gotta find out where the funds would come from.
Yeah.
The funding?
Yeah, what line item?
Little sign.
Oh, I know,
That's not my job.
Right, so,
but it is your job if you're asking for it, so we gotta figure it out,
Yeah, well,
so.
so I think that's a good thought.
We
I
can make
have a motion,
donations.
is there a second? I didn't hear a
Second for a plaque, sure.
Okay, so we have a second, so discussion. I think we need to find out where we can draw that from. I think that probably is a line item, but I just don't know where that is. So I would like to table that until our next meeting, so that we can.
And the
look
garden
at
club,
it.
if they can, maybe they'll get a donation too, so.
that's what I was, you know, that's an excellent idea. I'm sure that we could probably do it through donations, possibly.
Yep.
Just throwing that out there.
It shouldn't be an issue. I think when I did the Purple Heart event, all of those road signs were donated by the citizens of Newbury. So I think it's a simple request for donations. We can help you solicit if you need to.
Pride in our town.
It's just to spend, we have to know what line item it's gonna come.
And they can plant the tree and get going, and we can always come up with where that's gonna come from. And get it installed and made. It's gonna take a while to make it anyway, a little
And then
stone.
who's gonna decide, have the oversight of the design?
They will, let the garden club.
The guidance board. Okay. All right, so do we want to table this to another meeting, or do we want, I have a motion to table, is there a second?
Well, he seconded my,
Right,
so are we gonna vote on that?
well, I'm gonna move to table it
Next meeting.
to our next meeting. Or a meeting in June.
Table it to find,
With the
Funding.
understanding that we'll have more details about where the money could come from
And what,
and make
and more
a
information.
real decision.
Right,
okay, fair enough.
Second,
okay. So is there all in favor of tabling it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been tabled.
It'll be beautiful.
Okay, that was the plaque. Okay, I have a private donation to the police department gifts fund account from Matthew and Kimberly Pullen.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? Patty, do you wanna speak, please?
Good evening. On May 10th is when I received this unsolicited donation. I sent them the thank you card. The total amount for it is $1,000, so we're very grateful for that. And we're before you here tonight to get the approval to put that in our gifts funds. It would be spent in accordance with Mass General Law, procurement laws, and the town policies for purchases.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions of Patty? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty. Public hearings, we have none. New business, the first order is reorganization of the select board for chair, vice chair, and clerk. after every election of every year, we reorganize the board. I'll entertain a motion for chair.
I would make a motion that Alicia Greco be appointed as chair.
And I'll second it.
Any other?
I'll make a motion for Dana Packer to be chair.
I'll second that.
Okay.
But I don't know if we need to vote on the first one first, so I'm not sure
Well,
that.
we're taking, I took all the nominations, I did this last time, all at the same time, so we'll take Alicia Greco first. All in favor of Alicia Greco remaining chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
And
And let me just say this, that I remember sitting in the audience as liaison for the planning board. And JR was in the chair at the time, and Jeff brought up the point that it is a good and healthy thing to allow somebody else to come in for new blood and new ideas. That's my reasoning on it.
okay, thank you.
I'll tell you my reasoning for nominating Alicia. When I was at work, if there was one item on my budget, my operating budget, that used half of my budget, I would assign someone to be a shepherd for that account. And I think that Alicia has more information, more background, more connections with the school, with the Mass Municipalities Association. She's very familiar with the legislators in terms of Chapter 70. And she has more to offer than anyone on this board in terms of stewardship for half of our budget.
Thank you.
And the only thing is, I'll follow Bill in one thing. If it were another year where we weren't so close last year, and it seems like this could be a very tough budget year from what we're talking about, and we're gonna start to work on the budget early. And where people have had different ideas about how to handle, our budgets now, I think it might be good to just get through this year with the same people that we have, because it's gonna be a tough year all around. Because if the roof comes and a bunch of other stuff comes from the school and, and this and that, and let alone, what we're doing with Whittier, so that was my reason.
No W word,
Hmm?
no W word,
Well, what?
W.
Yeah, well, you gotta learn to say that word.
Okay, so we have 3 votes for a chair. Now I'll entertain a motion for vice chair.
I guess Bill. Bill would be great for vice chair. If I go along with my thinking, keeping it the same.
I'll second that. Any other nominations for vice chair?
No, I'm gonna nominate myself.
Second.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of Bill becoming vice chair, say aye.
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 No,
Okay. That's
Opposed.
3 votes, okay. Okay, clerk.
Leslie.
You wanna nominate Leslie? I'll second that, 'cause I think Leslie is a good clerk.
Should be great.
do I get a new badge or something?
No, you already know what you're doing. That helps. All in favor of Leslie becoming clerk, say aye.
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 That kept it the same.
Okay. I think we're good here. Okay, year-end budget transfers. We have ambulance enterprise salary and wages. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to transfer, I guess.
Second.
Okay, David, can you fill us in on what this is about, please?
Sure, I think the chief might be
Even better.
here for that.
I apologize, I'm listening to a call right now.
Whatever's more important,
What's that?
whatever's more important.
Yes, I may just sneak out right after this.
Okay.
So as all of you know, this is my 7th month, but this transfer is for the whole year. We had multiple unexpected, unforeseen issues with our ambulances this year. And that's the reason why we're trying to move that money over for that.
What type of issues with the ambulances?
Well,
Wages, salaries, or?
No, it was equipment itself, we had ambulances fall apart, we had to replace a transmission in A2, we had some major issues, tires a bunch of times, we had some major issues with the trucks themselves. Hence the reason why we're replacing one of them, so,
That was my
Okay.
next question, we're replacing one.
correct, we are replacing one, yes. So, that is the reasoning behind it.
Now, does that usually, can I speak?
Go ahead.
Does that usually come like in month 12 instead of 7?
No, it's just the way it fell for me on this one, Jeff, yes. Just trying to go through the whole thing and
Historically, have we done it like?
I'd have to look back myself, Jeff, I don't have that answer, so.
Alright,
What's the longevity on most of the vehicles?
On the ambulances themselves, you try to get 10 to 15 years out of them. A lot of manufacturers say 20, but again, that's the selling point for them. Sometimes there's low miles on them, but they get beat up pretty much because of where we put them,
And how they're used?
how they're used, yes.
well, coastal environments don't help.
It doesn't help, no.
I have a
Dana?
question if I may. Now, Enterprise, I understand that when we do the books, we balance the books with Enterprise. And I also believe that there's an additional money that is put into a fund, an enterprise fund.
Do we have a stabilization, you mean?
Yeah, like,
An
yeah.
unforeseen,
A stabilization fund or something. David,
have an
can you help me
ambulance?
with this? Do we have anything?
Stabilization,
That I do not know, I'd have to look into that.
yeah.
Okay, so, my question is it's a account transfer from and account transfer to, and they're both the same, so where's the money coming from?
one is expenditures, the other one is coming from, it's from salary and wages into the expenditure. It's the same purse, it's just moving it from one line to get your permission to the next, that's all.
I think if we understand that, the ambulance is paying for itself.
It is, correct.
So he's asking to move that, and it's worked so well. Are we still gonna be able to balance the budget?
Correct. It's the same budget, yes, yes.
So I think that Tracy had given us a number of what the fund that I'm talking about, I'm pretty sure,
So I
in her briefing.
Yeah, I think you might be right, there might be an enterprise, like I think it might have $100,000 in it, but that's not the matter before us tonight, it's just transferring.
I understand that, I'm just, wondering,
I can go back and look myself.
you know.
Yep,
Yeah, I think that for tonight's purpose, tonight's vote, that's irrelevant, but I think if Mr. Packer would like to know that number, if you could get that to
Sure.
him.
absolutely.
Thank you, does that help you, Dana?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Dana.
So we have a motion,
One more question. And either Dave or Wally on this one, you can capitulate a little. Are we gonna have trouble with the budget equaling itself out this year with calls and everything else?
I don't believe so, Jeff.
So we're okay?
Yep.
Those extra expenses
Yep.
are still gonna be within the confines.
Correct.
If it isn't, let us know
Correct.
earlier than not.
Absolutely. I
yeah,
understood.
well, it would have to go to the finance committee for a
Correct.
reserve fund transfer, and
Correct.
this has already been through finance committee, so.
Correct.
So this doesn't fall into operational cost?
That's not.
Self-funded.
Not the fire department. Yes, well,
It's
please.
separate from the fire department operational budget,
Yeah.
yes.
The enterprise account that we're talking about is a solely self-sufficient account.
Correct.
It proceeds of the ambulance fund this account. The funds can't be used or transferred out of anything that isn't enterprise account or ambulance related. So we're just shuffling a little money around. You know, the chief had talked about maintenance. We had one repair bill on one of our ambulances that took 10% of our budget. So it,
Hence the reason.
And Alicia, this went to finance committee already?
Yeah, it did. They
Yeah,
already signed it.
they signed it.
Yep.
Well, it's all good.
Okay.
We just need to move money around a little.
Yep. Yep.
Just from here to there.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you both.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, thank you.
Okay, next we have home rule petition vote on Article 4 of annual town meeting of 4/30/2024.
Madam Chair, I move that the board adopt the home rule petition as approved at the April 30th, 2024 town meeting, Article 4, and submit the same to the general court.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
To refresh everybody's memory, just to let them know what this place.
Go ahead.
Where do we find it? Thank you, Jeff. You're such a good secretary.
Make sure I gave you the right one.
By authorization of Article 4 of the annual town meeting of the town of Newbury held on the 30th day of April in the year 2024, it was voted that the town of Newbury may submit the following home rule petition to the Great and General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, requesting that the town be authorized to act accordingly, provided that the general court may reasonably vary the form and the substance of the requested legislation within the scope of general public objectives in this petition, or take any action relative thereto. An act authorizing the town of Newbury to adopt a bylaw restricting the use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, say eschars, on private property. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of the Representatives in general court assembled by the authority of same as follows. Section 1. Notwithstanding any general law to the contrary, the town of Newbury may adopt a bylaw restricting the use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides on private property in the town of Newbury. Section 2. This act shall take effect upon its passage by the general court, respectively submitted Town of Newbury Select Board.
Okay. Any discussion?
Discussion. The Agricultural Commission, I believe, reached out to me, and that they have had some either phone calls or emails, I'm not sure which, of some of the local farming businesses that are unsure of what this means.
Okay.
And what I wanna say is that because those have been forwarded to the Agricultural Commission, and the Agricultural Commission hasn't really been able to answer their questions in its entirety. I totally understand the vote, I totally understand the warrant and the article, and I totally understand what we need to do to move that forward. But that being said, I would like to give possibly another 4 to 6 weeks or whenever we're gonna meet again, to allow some of our other commissions or committees to address what this actually means, why it's important. And I think the confusion is on private property in the town of Newbury. And I think some of the businesses that have reached out, they're not sure what that definition is. And you could say, well, Dana, that's simple, we all know what that definition is, but possibly we could put out something that would not change any of the verbiage that we voted on at the ATM, but describe what the verbiage means to the local businesses. So I would just like to motion that we table this for a future select board.
And if I may comment, that it's a righteous way to go forward with these kinds of poisons that are being put out there. So I think we have to be able to describe what private is, with whether it's commercial, privately owned farms, or privately owned residential areas.
And I think that's the confusion, and it's kind of interesting, because I remember us talking about this on a couple of different board levels, and the private commercial property, I don't remember that ever being addressed, or us even talking about it, and when it was brought to me, I'm like, wow, I can kind of understand the confusion, you know, about what the article means and what is the definition of private property in the town of Newbury. I just think that's important.
And I think too that the original, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, that the original proposal was to take it off of town properties to ensure that, you know, our children and our pets and that of that nature that we didn't have personal control over would be taken care of.
So right, and this is really just refers to just the SCARs. So it's just a second generation. It's really a very modest proposal, excuse that, but at any rate, it's just SCARs.
Kathy, do you wanna come up here? Please, thank you.
I'd like to just add to her
Well,
discussion.
let her finish, and then you can.
Okay.
So it's just so as far as right, and so in January, you guys all agreed on town-owned properties. So the curious thing here is this building, this is municipal, but it's privately owned. So there are like 12 bait boxes that we counted right outside this property. Some of them are by the dumpsters going down the slope to the river, so you have possible contamination into the waterways there. And they're just, in fact, we ran into the guy from the pest control company. He was like replacing the poison. We were out here walking around, the three of us walking around with my dog. And we talked a little bit, and he actually told us he didn't care if they killed the wildlife, which was really kind of sad. So it's not, SCARs are can only be really administered and applied by a licensed pest control person. So like you and I couldn't go into Home Depot and buy SCARs. Unfortunately, on Amazon, you can, because there's a loophole. So it's really just to hold the pesticide companies accountable for what they put down. And we're asking, ideally, we want to use exclusion, because if you just keep poisoning, and you're putting them down, you're drawing the rodents to you. You know, you're just encouraging them to come. So the best
Feeding
thing,
them.
excuse me?
You're feeding them.
Yeah, we're feeding them because it's a tasty bait. It's a tasty bait. So it's just SCARs, and yes, we decided, or you guys decided in January for the town-owned properties. A lot of it's private, it's municipal, or it's property owners. But again, property owners, they wouldn't be using that bait anyway.
So, thank you. Did you wanna respond? And then I'll.
Well, I just wanted to respond to what Leslie said, and that is, it's actually what we voted on at the annual town meeting was not on the municipal property side.
Right.
It was on the private property side, is what was voted on at the annual town meeting. And we, as a select board, we had already decided we were not gonna allow them on the municipal properties. And then we continued that forward with the annual town meeting by adding the private
So
property.
that's where you're mistaken. We didn't do that.
We didn't have it.
No, we
All right,
did that.
citizen petition.
We did that.
Okay.
That-
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is not coming from the
Yeah,
town.
yeah, no.
That's
no,
very
yeah,
important.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
But
That's
town
correct.
meeting's telling us kind of what to do.
Town meeting, a voted town
Correct.
meeting is directing the select board to petition.
I just wanted to differentiate between the municipal and the private.
And as far as the agricultural commission, if they had comments on this, the town meeting was the time to come speak to that.
Well, they didn't have any comments on it because they hadn't been approached yet. They've been approached since.
There's been signs all over
No,
town.
no, you know,
They had an opportunity to vote at town meeting.
no.
What
No, hold
David's
on,
saying
hold
though,
on,
the only
hold
thing
on.
is, and I heard what he said, I would jump on him too, but I heard what he said. At that time, the Ag Commission didn't get the complaints. So-
No, I'm not even saying it was a complaint.
Okay,
What they weren't receiving prior to the annual town meeting was phone calls on what does this actually mean to my business? That's all I'm saying.
So,
That has
so-
taken place since,
yeah,
the
but
annual town meeting.
But I don't think the Agricultural Commission has oversight over this. I believe the town bylaw only allows the Agricultural Commission to receive grievances because we have a right to farm community. And if you buy a new home in town and you don't like the rooster crowing next door, well, or the manure that's being spread, then you have a grievance and you bring it to the Agricultural Commission. I don't believe the Agricultural Commission
Right.
has oversight over
They don't have any
bylaws.
oversight.
So that's one thing. The second thing is, if there's truly an infestation, there is, you can petition the Department of Health and you can use these SCARs if there's truly an infestation. There has to be deemed a public health hazard, to human health actually. So that can happen, so
A life health hazard.
human health, I believe. Department of Public Health
Mhm.
is our Department of Health Department is human health. So,
Alicia,
Jeff,
have we put that away? Is that away yet?
no, we're still talking about it,
No,
Phil.
but are you guys satisfied, Dana?
So,
Well, I put a motion
is there a
on the
motion?
table. Didn't I?
Here's,
I think he moved it. He read the motion and now we're under discussion.
Yeah, I think we're still on the first motion.
well, let me throw this out.
Well, my motion was to table it. That was my motion.
So alright, so he moved it and then you moved to table it. And you seconded his table?
I did,
Okay, so
You mean
that's
for
okay.
one meeting?
yes.
Let me,
Okay.
Of whatever, we can get it back on the agenda. And let people hash this out. Now that it's been explained,
So, hold on,
Right.
I'm not, wait a minute, I'm not done, hold on, I'm not, one second, ma'am, one second, I'm not done yet. Jeff, did you have?
the only thing that, this is a little, and maybe you guys will clarify it real quick for me, and I'm just not seeing the forest, but I'm concerned with, I understood the process as I thought it was, where Board of Health and all this stuff could, go through the process if you really had an infestation. But where I get a little lost is, notwithstanding, Newbury may adopt a bylaw restricting. And then I get the general court may reasonably vary in form and substance of the requested legislation within the scope of the general public objectives and take any action, so they can change it all? Am I
They
reading
can.
that wrong?
No, they can.
I don't like that.
So, but what this will do, what our vote will do, we'll send this as directed by town meeting. I wanna make people aware of that. We have a vote of town meeting to move this. Up to petition the general court for a home rule petition. Now, does everybody here understand what a home rule petition means? And if not, I'm more than happy to explain it.
But what I'm a little bothered by
Alright.
is almost like the leash law. So the legislature can send anything that they take action relative
No, no,
of.
so this says
Do we
being
get a-
enacted by the
Do we
Senate.
get a chance to not, if we don't want that, can we say no? After the
An
legislature
act
sits?
authorizing the town of Newbury to adopt a bylaw restricting the use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides on private property. Being enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives in general court assembled and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1, notwithstanding any other general law to the contrary, the town of Newbury may adopt a bylaw. We still have to adopt a bylaw, and then we have to structure that bylaw to suit the town of Newbury and its farming rural community. To adopt a bylaw restricting the use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides on private property in the town of Newbury. And section 2 is it shall take effect upon its passage by the general court.
Well, who's crafting the bylaw?
We have to. That's what a home rule petition is. So let's go back to
No,
what a
but
home
why are
rule
we
petition
sending
is.
it to them to craft?
Because they have to allow us to have a home rule petition. Once they allow us to have a home rule petition, then we have to
Oh,
work
that's
on
clear,
a
that's clear
bylaw.
as mud.
Yeah, yeah, David,
No, sorry, I was gonna attempt to clarify if you'd like me to, I can.
please.
So this is effectively enabling legislation from the general court back to the town, saying, write it the way you want. But there's a couple of different ways and formats that you can send things to the general court. One being fairly broad in scope, with the hope that because it's broad, yes, they may tweak it, but you'll get something passed. You can send something very narrow, but then the only choice the court has is to say yes or no. So if they don't like the intent of it, or right off the bat, there's something they don't like, they just vote the whole thing down. So there's kind of two schools of thought, do you go with a broad interpretation to enable something, craft a bylaw later on that suits local needs, or do you send something really narrow in scope with the idea that there's probably a pretty good chance it might get voted down?
So in other words, without sending this to the legislature, we're not gonna be able to craft a bylaw anyway.
Correct.
Because there's no law on the books
Because,
with the
no,
common law.
because it's a home rule petition.
So home rule petitions are like a patchwork.
Otherwise, if it came through town meeting, we could craft a bylaw, we wouldn't have to send it to the legislature.
We're not there yet. We're way before all of that. So the first step is this group, through citizens petition, collected the signatures, brought it to town meeting, had a very thoughtful process at town meeting. Town meeting voted, they're a legislative body, and they asked us to go ahead and ask the general court if we could formulate our own bylaw to prohibit the use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides on private property. Because right now, the town of Newbury can't do that. We can only do public property, and that's ours. We have a policy for that. So this is just gonna, when we vote on this, it'll send it up to the legislature, who may or may not do anything with it. I know from speaking to our senator that they're already working on statewide legislature for this. Now, we all know how it works.
Because it's telling people on private property what they can do and what they can't
Correct,
do.
and I believe, this is just my instinct and my guess, is that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts would not prefer to have a patchwork of laws where West Newbury does it this way, Newbury does it this way, Arlington does it that way, because it's too confusing. So that's why there are other communities, and Kathy can attest to this, that have sent home rule petitions up there. I think Arlington is one, I think Stoneham might be
Plymouth is
one.
working on one, Newton's working on one.
So
There's
there-
quite a few communities.
There's communities that have sent it up there, but the legislature hasn't acted on it yet. So I think one of the schools of thought around kicking this up to the legislature is to have them look at all these communities would like this done. It adds
Strategy.
it adds a voice to them. So that's the point of this. But this is not, by us voting on this tonight doesn't say that we
Finalize it.
now have, no, we are nowhere near that. And quite frankly, if they do, I don't know what's gonna happen. But if they do kick it back to us and say we can craft a bylaw, I would expect then the Agricultural Commission to weigh in on it. Farmers would weigh in on it, because you'll have an impact on your livelihood.
I think
So-
you've done a good job clarifying that.
So, are there any further questions?
No, great discussion, everyone. I really appreciate the discussion, and I think that the point I was trying to make has been made, and I would like to pull my motion to table it.
Perfect.
Is there a second to remove his table?
I'll second it.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, all in favor of untabling it?
Good.
Yes, okay. So now we're back to the main motion.
Where do we stand with that?
Do you wanna read it
I have
again?
a motion and a second.
Do I wanna read it again?
No, we don't have to do that.
You don't wanna read it?
We don't
Okay.
have to do that.
I'll refresh your memories. I move that the board adopt the home rule petition as approved on April 30th, 2024, town meeting Article 4, and submit the same to the general court.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
It's a process.
It is a process, we know.
okay, now we get to do this all over again. I'll entertain that we have a home rule petition to vote on Article 19 for the annual town meeting of 4/30/2024.
Madam Chair, I move that the board adopt the home rule petition as approved at the April 30th, 2024 town meeting, Article 19, and submit the same to the general court.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Okay, Leslie, do you wanna,
Discussion.
yes. Do you wanna read it, or do you want me to
Would you like me to read it?
summarize it? I mean, do you wanna summarize it? That would be better.
It has been in the past that the Finance Committee and the Capital Committee have been able to sit on each other's boards and have a communication with each other. In the past, like 6 months or something, that was taken away. There were a lot of things taken away that we couldn't,
We had conflicting bylaws.
yeah, we couldn't share. It was conflicting bylaws that apparently weren't written right in the first place. So the only, what they're saying is the capital planning committee is lacking in manpower too, but would have the ability to bring in the finance committee to help them along with their decision-making process.
He's actually doing a lot of the grunt work of setting up the whole process of what's coming up next and what goes out
Yeah.
and what comes in and, yeah.
So the question is, do we take this on and say that it's okay for people that sit on two basically similar committees, boards, to have direct communication with each other as far as a voting process is concerned? And I think that's the direction that everybody is wondering about.
So, okay, so we have a motion and a second, you tried to summarize it that way. I'm gonna just give a little more clarity to what Leslie just said. The capital planning committee, we have a capital plan, there are two overarching, there's one overarching act, the Act of 460, that's our form of government. We have a town administrative form of government. It sets the select board with specific duties. It sets the town administrator with specific duties. We had a capital planning, that was passed in 2008, our act. The capital planning bylaw that created the capital planning committee was passed in 2007. And in May of 2007, that bylaw that was adopted at annual town meeting indicates that the capital planning committee will include 2 members appointed by the finance committee, 2 members appointed by the select board, and the town administrator. That's what our capital planning committee bylaw says. Then the act was passed in 2008. So, for some reason, somebody wasn't paying attention back then, in in section 3 of the acts of chapter 460 of the Acts of 2008 instructs the select board to appoint 2 members to the capital planning committee. So Article 19, that was overwhelmingly approved at our town meeting, amends the section 5 in that act to correctly reflect the capital planning bylaw. So I think it was just somehow it was a mistake that was missed. Nobody aligned the two things. But they both agree. The capital planning committee bylaw says you need to have 2 people appointed by the select board, 2 people from the finance committee appointed by the finance committee, and the town administrator. That's your capital planning committee. And then our act to 460 should have fixed this finance committee piece. It didn't, but going, article, I think it was section 3 says that, members of the finance committee or the select board cannot sit on any other boards or committees. But then if you go down to the one after that, Article 5, Section 5 of that Act of 460, it says the select board shall appoint 2 members. So it doesn't, it was just a mistake. So this overwhelmingly voted at town meeting fixes that conflicting bylaw. Now, is that clear? That's my,
If I could just add, it not only fixed the bylaw, but the purpose of it, the vote, was to instruct the select board to pass that home rule petition to the general court, for them to do the same thing we just talked about on Article 4.
because that's how we got the Acts of 460. That's how we got our form of government. It was a home rule petition. Petition to them, so now we just need to amend it. They're the legislative body that allowed us to have that form of government, so we have to petition them to allow us to do this.
So Madam Chair, if I could just add,
To reinstate it.
I interpret the vote tonight is not whether that committee is structured correctly or not correctly. The vote is, the people told us to move this to the general court.
Right.
Right.
That's what the
It's a
vote is
yes
to
or no-
move,
it's a
is
yes
to,
or
just
no.
like it was for the last one, we're just gonna move it to the general court.
Yeah.
Now, what's your question, Leslie?
Well, the question is, I know when this all really began, there were a lot of people that were very surprised that they were being eliminated from different, you know, like the select board couldn't be on anything. Jeff had to step down from the.
And he still can't sit on it. This
No,
only
what-
fixes the finance committee.
And I just want everybody to understand that, you know, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, because we have an act, that's our government, we're the rule of law. If we don't abide by our rules of law, we don't have anything. So we need to fix this, like town meeting instructed us to. Any other questions?
No, discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanna say that, I did not recommend that this get put on the warrant. And, I totally understand what you just said, and I agree with what you just said. I do feel as though that the original restrictions that the state approved were there for a reason. What reason? I don't know, but they were there for a reason, and I understand that it conflicted with our current
A
town
previous
bylaws. I think what's interesting to add to the discussion is, and I'm not sure this is what we really want, but it says the first sentence hereof shall not apply to members of the finance committee who may be appointed to serve on capital planning. When I did not recommend to move this forward, my recommendation would have been to try and recruit other citizens to possibly want to serve in this capacity. And then, obviously, if we didn't have any volunteers that wanted to serve in this capacity or had the knowledge to serve in this capacity, certainly members of the, of the finance committee and the capital planning committee have that knowledge to be able to fulfill this. But I just want to reiterate that it says may be appointed, not shall be appointed.
No,
And
but what you're saying,
there is no buts.
no, there is a but. What you're saying is directly conflicting with the capital planning bylaw that says it needs 2 people from finance committee.
Well, how come it says may here? Why didn't we put shall?
Because it says, the first sentence hereof shall not apply to members of the finance committee who may be appointed to serve on the capital planning committee. Not all of them, only some of them may be appointed, but shall be ineligible either by election or appointment to hold any other town office. You have to complete the sentence.
Yep.
So, not all finance committee members, it's just 2 of them. So,
And part of the reason for that, I always thought, was back when that was initiated, I mean, it's gotten to be a little more formatted. And, you know, it's got little envelopes you put stuff in now, and it's protocols on when are the police cars rotate, you know, on and on and on.
oh, they score it, they
But
have a
in the
scoring
very
scheme
begin-
for the capital planning process, I mean,
In the
it's,
very beginning of this, they didn't have anything, it was a lot of work to set it up.
so this, all this does is it correctly reflects, it corrects the act to correctly reflect our
Yeah.
capital planning bylaw.
So therefore, this will all be rewritten and put into our bylaws and be,
No, the bylaws are fine, we're not changing the bylaw, we're amending the act.
okay.
Just to allow that single act of the finance committee member.
Just to allow the finance committee, oh, and we changed a few other things, we changed, you know, I think we changed from board of selectmen to select board in here, there's a few other
Right.
administrative things that we changed.
Little
But the
housekeeping.
meat of it is that, is the important piece is that, because there's only been 3 capital planning committee members. Because the bylaw, the capital planning bylaw indicates that 2 finance committee members appointed by the finance committee sit on the capital planning committee. That's that bylaw.
Well, you know, in the recent past, we had a person sitting on capital planning who could not serve on that, well, had to make a choice.
Right,
And that was to be,
he left finance committee and stayed on capital planning. He couldn't sit on both.
That
no,
was Marshall.
no,
Or Tom?
Tom.
Tom is a constable.
He's a
Tom still,
constable.
he
Okay,
still
he's a
can't
constable.
serve with this change.
Yeah.
He'll be ineligible to serve
Yep.
because he's a constable.
If I may,
Yes?
I will finish the sentence. And it says, at no time shall more than 2 members of the finance committee serve on the capital planning committee.
Right.
It still does not say that 2 of the members have to. Okay? So-
Which members, Dana?
So they have to choose if they want to or not.
No, but the original bylaw that's just changing may, if they're chosen, serve. Because the original bylaw says there'll be 2 finance committee people.
And no more.
But that's not what this says.
But
So, but you know what, I told, you know what, great discussion. Let's throw it at the state and let's see what shakes out of this and how they're gonna address it.
So
I
here's-
can't
here's-
disagree.
I read that it goes back to our bylaw.
Here's our capital planning
I
bylaw.
realize what that does.
Here's the capital planning bylaw. There is hereby established a capital planning committee consisting of the director of municipal finance, 2 members of the finance committee annually chosen by it, and 2 members appointed by the selectmen from among the registered voters of the town, who shall be appointed for a term of 2 years on a staggered basis, so that such member's term expires each year. So the finance committee annually chooses who it wants on the committee. What you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is you want to ignore this bylaw. You want to change the act
No, that's not what I said at all.
to say that it should not be 2 members of finance committee. The select board should appoint 4 members.
No, that's not what I said at
All right, so
all.
I misunderstood you. Can you explain again?
What Dana's missing?
No, I want to hear from Dana.
But
I want,
Dana, you're
because I
just
want this
saying,
to be
that
clear.
bylaw is just saying we're gonna go back to that bylaw. That's all it's saying.
So I want to hear from Dana.
So what's the question?
I said what I thought you said.
I feel like I'm like in a court here or something, you know?
Well, because
I'm
words
I'm just
matter.
having a discussion.
We're at the public body, we need to understand what we're doing. The capital planning bylaw in the town of Newbury says there is hereby established a capital planning committee consisting of the director of municipal finance, which is the town administrator, because we don't have a director, 2 members of the finance committee, annually chosen by it.
You don't have to read it to me.
No, well, I do.
No, you
And
don't.
2 members appointed by the selectmen.
Alicia,
So
You're
you're
being,
saying.
you're being very condescending right now.
Don't mean to
Please.
be.
What?
I don't mean to be.
Well, you
I'm
are.
sorry. Okay.
You are.
Well, I thought
Okay.
I heard you say that you think that the select board should appoint 4 members.
No, that's not
All
what I
right,
said at
I'm
all.
sorry, then I misunderstood
And
you, Dana,
Dana-
and I am sorry. I thought that's what
The
you
only
said.
thing that does, where it says may, is it said those people may, the 2 appointed members may, because it's really reflecting back to that.
But what is the bylaw for the FinCom? Do they have a mutual feeling as far as what their bylaw is?
Most of the time when those are crafted, there, there's discussion when they're crafted. I know when I originally
To
was
be able to
selectman,
put them in comparison to one another would probably,
when I was selectman early on, the Concom bylaw said before the acts that you had to have a selectman. I was a liaison for years.
now it's a planning board.
So,
Well,
way back then.
I mean,
I
this
meant
is
planning
like,
board. Did I
Dana,
say
I'm
selectman?
sorry
Yeah.
if
I
you
meant
thought I
planning
was
board, excuse
condescending,
me.
but
I meant
it
planning
comes
board.
down to fundamentals
And
of
they're
how our
voting.
government
Yeah.
works.
They have the right to vote.
And
Yeah.
I, we are on TV and I know people watch this and I kind of want to be clear about why we're doing what it is we're doing. And I apologize if I offended you.
But I would like to see the comparison between the bylaw of the FinCom to
All
see
right,
if it.
the role of the finance committee, they are the eyes and ears of town meeting. Their role of the capital planning committee is different. The capital planning committee follows the capital planning bylaw. Finance committee's role is the eyes and ears of town meeting. They have 2 different roles. Capital projects come before the annual town meeting, which is why it's important that FinCom members sit on capital planning as well. That's all part of the eyes and ears of town meeting. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Rest assured, there are more bylaws in this town
yeah.
we'll be talking about in the future that need to be amended to reality, so.
I'm sure there are others that's gonna come up. Okay, so approve 1-day liquor license for Governor's Academy reunions, June 7th and June 8th of 2024.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anybody here from Governor's that wants to speak to this? Okay, all in favor? Aye. It's unanimous?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, review request for public property use special permit, Ventures Endurance, November 10th, 2024, from 9 to 10 a.m. A road race on Scotland Road from Highfield Road to Indian Hill Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Are you guys here? Okay, hopefully they won't mark up our roads. All in favor?
Aye.
Tri-State Trek, June 22nd, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., cycling race on Main Street. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any
Discussion.
discussion?
There's someone here to represent, I think.
Are you guys here? Yep. Come on up.
Good.
You're on TV, so.
I'm Kevin Stoney from ALS Therapy Development Institute. And we are asking for approval for our bike ride. It's our 2nd annual coming through Newbury. We'll be riding on Main Street for 2 miles coming from West Newbury into Georgetown. And we will have our ride marshals within the pack, making sure everyone follows all the rules. And then we have a takedown crew that comes in after all our riders come through, making sure that everything's cleaned up and leaving Newbury the way we found it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
What's your anticipation on how many riders will participate?
So it's looking right now as of today to be around 150. Everyone comes through intermittently, so we have some people that are super fast and some people that ride at like 10 miles per hour. So it ranges from 20 to 10 miles per hour people ride.
So not only the residents that live on the road have to be aware of what's going on, but the riders have to be aware of what's going on. I live on Main Street, that's why
Okay.
I ask.
Yeah.
And I my driveway is like, it doesn't have great view to get out of, so I
Is
don't
it the
wanna
whole
run
of Main
anybody
Street? Are
over.
you
Yeah, so we're
from
going,
Georgetown to the West Newbury line?
yes ma'am.
Okay.
Driving a big truck, I mean, a big vehicle.
All right, well, thank you. Good luck with
Thank
your
you.
event.
Thank you so much, I appreciate
No
it.
chalk on the ground, right? No chalk?
No,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely not.
Thank you. All right,
Chalk is okay.
no.
Paint is
Paint's
not.
so good.
Mhm.
Chalk?
We had permanent chalk. Okay,
Oh.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alicia,
Yes?
point of interest. And correct me, I think we did this last year, if we're gonna okay the use of our roads, someone should be here to represent the group that's gonna ask for that.
I agree.
So maybe we announce that publicly, and Dave, can you maybe put that in when they ask you or whatever?
Yeah, have somebody show up in case you have any
Because
questions.
we've done this before, we've asked it before.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't seem to think it's that important, but it is to me, because we might have a question.
Yeah.
We can reiterate that, there is actually on the bottom of the application, to say, potential for denial, really, if you're not there.
Put it at the top.
Yeah.
Okay. Harmony Natural Learning Center, June 12th, 2022, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., use of Lower Green. Come on up.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second,
My name is Chrissy Ruff. I'm the owner of Harmony Natural Learning Center at 67 Newburyport Turnpike. We're requesting the use of the Lower Green for our year-end celebration for our families. Did it last year, worked great.
Worked well last year, didn't it?
It was great.
Yeah.
That is the only space in Newburyport, Georgetown, Amesbury, and Newbury that we can fit our family. So we are just, whatever we can do to keep that going well for everybody. It was wonderful. And it's so sweet that it has a little schoolhouse there. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, and you have parking in the back.
Yep.
Yeah.
It worked great.
and thanks for being a business in our town.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we have appointments for the Newbury Cultural Council. We have Ellen Daly, Michaela Early, and Ryan Kelly.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I'll take them all. If somebody has a question on one of them, just put a hold on it.
I'll put a hold on it.
Okay, you wanna go one at a time? Ellen Daly?
Yeah, please.
Ellen Daly,
Motion to accept.
Second.
okay. Any discussion on Ellen? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Michaela Early,
Motion to accept.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ryan Kelly,
Motion to accept.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 No,
You're a no?
I'm a no.
Okay. Were you a yes or a no?
I don't know. I won't give any reason.
If that was 3, so that was a yes. Okay, so we have Brianna Gouldman's Assistant Treasurer Collector. I move no action on this. We aren't the appointing authority for that role. That's the town administrator. So that appointment will come from the town administrator's office. This is just a clerical error. Next, we have the Recreation Committee. We have Daniel Jones, the Triton representative.
Motion to appoint.
He's taking Ben's place, right?
Do you have a second?
Second.
Yeah, discussion. Yes, he's taking Ben Norton's place.
Yeah.
Is
So
he here
Ben's
tonight?
graduating.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're gonna love it. It's so much fun.
Sure I will, I sat in at the last meeting.
It's,
time.
it's wicked fun.
A good time.
Thank you. You'll learn about municipal governance, so that's great. So you're a junior this year?
I'm going into my junior year, I'm currently a sophomore,
So, okay, but then you'll be a junior when you.
Be a junior
Yeah,
next year.
you'll cycle
For the
through
fiscal
two
year.
years.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Okay,
Thank you, Daniel.
thank you for stepping up. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and Mary Anastasio, she's already on the committee.
Re-upping.
Yeah,
Yep, motion to accept.
Second.
okay, any discussion on this? David, what's her appointment, do you know? Is it a,
The length of time?
yeah, just looking at that, I wanna make sure. 'cause
27?
We had an issue with,
I believe they're 3-year appointments,
they're all 3-year
I
appointments?
believe so.
Okay.
But were they non-staggered before, is that?
I don't know that answer, that's something that
Interesting, the letter says her intent is to serve for 2024/2025.
Oh, that's right. And she is just a year to year.
Please. Okay, so hold on, I just wanna make sure that we appoint her correctly.
Actually, it does look like they are all one-year appointments.
Yeah, they are 1 year appointments.
Must be a tough committee.
One member,
Gonna have some more people step up.
I mean, after
Just
all,
mirror-
it is recreation, you know, I thought.
okay. All right, 1 year, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Old business, Newbury Police request to be named administrative lead in regional component jail diversion program.
What are you doing now,
Patty,
Patty?
please.
So this is a unique request that has me before you tonight, but I wanted to be clear with everyone what we're trying to do. So Raleigh Police Department right now has staffing and administrative changes that they're going through with Chief Dumas unexpectedly filing for retirement. They had not filled their second in command position yet. So they're having some staffing issues. The clinical grant that I've spoken to you about before and that was approved before the select board in November of '21. So our clinician Robin, that we share with 5 communities is to me, to all of us, a very important grant. And Raleigh Police Department felt as though with everything that they kind of have going on right now, that it would be best to transfer the lead of that grant from Raleigh over to Newbury. So what that would mean is I would be working with Raleigh Police Department to kind of finish out this fiscal year for the grant, and then would be the one to be applying for the renewal of the grant and would administer the grant the way that Raleigh has. So between the 5 communities, they would be submitting their reimbursements through me. You know, we would be reimbursing them through the grant. I've spoken with accounting. It's not a big deal on their end. But it is a change in the grant that you guys accepted in 2021 and the manner in which we've discussed it since then. So I'm looking for your approval to take over responsibility of that grant for the 5 communities and reapply for the grant at the end of this fiscal year when it comes up for renewal next fiscal year. The grant is between $150,000 and $160,000 that gets divided between all of us, just to give you an idea of the scope of the grant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions of Patty?
Yes.
Your leadership role in this, is that for eternity? Or is it, yeah, you know, like, I'm just curious, has Raleigh been doing it like forever?
So since 2021 is when they got the grant, and they were doing it since then. So there is no end time date as long as the grant is available for us to apply for, and we can continue to have a clinician paid for through this grant. For the 5 communities, we're hoping to do it. We're a unique program where we clinicians share between the smaller communities. Next week, I'm actually sitting on a board at a training with larger programs that have department individual clinicians assigned to departments, because we're kind of like a model in the state right now for the way smaller communities can address this need. So as long as the grant is available, it would be my goal that we would continue to administer it. If your question is, do I think that I have the space and time on my plate to be able to administer this grant and oversee it?
I wasn't worried about that.
Okay, because the grant is so important to all of us in our communities that Martha Leahy, our administrative assistant, is working very closely with me so that between the 2 of us and the clinician Robin and the assistants from Rowley, I anticipate as smooth of a transition as we could possibly have.
And
Thank
Patty,
you.
just so everybody understands, as a clinician, she's a mental health clinician.
A mental health clinician, yes. She's an employee of Leahy. She is not an employee of the town. The grant pays for her salary. And when officers have to co-respond in the community with her, so any work that she does from the station, follow-up phone work, computer work, things like that, she doesn't need an officer assigned to her. When she goes out into the community, so if she goes to somebody's home or comes on a call with us, the officer who gets overtime assigned to her, the overtime for that officer gets reimbursed through the grant as well.
Oh, so it's not on the taxpayer dollar,
So it's not on the taxpayer dollar.
okay?
Yeah.
What's the clinician actually doing though, Patty, just for kicks? What is her role?
Certainly. So the police departments make referrals. So when we respond to calls.
Referrals if you sense something is wrong?
So if we have any interaction with anyone in the community, that we believe the part of the reason that the police are before them is a mental health issue. So it could be somebody that got arrested, it might be somebody who's not, that we're concerned is escalating. It could be a number of different things.
That's a hard thing for a policeman to be, yep.
Yeah, because there's this huge gray area where police are, the community expects police to help in every situation. And there's this huge gray area where we don't have authority, lawful authority to do anything in certain circumstances. So for an easy, quick example, let's say we've got an adult child living at home with parents and that adult child has substance abuse issues. And they're kind of taking advantage, or there's issues in the home that the police keep getting called to, but they're not criminal issues yet. That would be an example of where we would make a referral. We have a form we fill out that we submit to Robin, that under her confidentiality and privilege, she follows up with whether it's the person who needs the help, the family to support the family while the person with the mental health issue navigates their situation. The other thing that she can do, so follow-up is one piece. The other thing she can do is, let's say I go to a call, and I'm gonna give an extreme example that I think I've given before. We've got a shirtless person in the street acting crazy. They're not doing anything criminal. We don't want to arrest them for their disorderly conduct. They're clearly having a mental break, right? Arrest isn't the right thing in this situation, isn't gonna get them the help that they need. We can call Robin to the scene with us to kind of take a step back from the police lens, let her do an assessment to see if, confirm that it's a mental health issue, and try to, in her clinical way, get the person on an ambulance, see if we can get family there so that there's an alternative to arrest is what is really what her goal is. So whether it's alternative to immediate arrest or alternative to what could escalate over time and become an arrest 2 months from now. It's, to alleviate and kind of minimize the likelihood of arresting people who are actually suffering from mental health issues, and that's why they're become aware to the police. But the referral has to come through the police department to her.
So it's all, her role is based on more of a domestic type of thing? Or,
It could be there's a million different scenarios that could be mental health, that we have. So, but it's.
she's the person that you want there to talk you down from the ledge?
Yes, yeah, so if in a domestic situation, we wouldn't call her to the scene where there's been actual physical violence. We might make a referral for her to follow up afterwards if we think that it was a role, but if we have probable cause to arrest in situations where we kind of have to follow our laws, we do what we do, but it's great now to also have her to refer to people who are kind of in those dual hat, they have to be arrested, but it's also a mental health piece. You know what I mean? Where we can also make the referral and say, kind of, let's let the courts do what the courts do.
Protection and care.
Protection and care, that's a perfect example, to look at it. So, she's being utilized quite a bit between the 5 communities. And for next fiscal year, we're hoping to add a clinician because the call volume has been so much. So, but again, before you today is my request for you guys to kind of approve this change in what you guys accepted in 2021 and what we've discussed, prior to tonight on how the grant runs and how it operates. Newbury would be the primary agency, and then Rowley would turn into one of the support agencies like Newbury has been all along.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no
for
problem.
stepping up to the plate
Yeah.
and helping out our fellow towns, and it's great.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate Martha Leahy, because she's taking a big piece of this. She's a 19-hour-a-week workhorse, so she's helping me incredibly in this
I
transition.
think it protects not only the person, but also the officer. It's a good, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great thing to have. So, thank you very much.
Thanks,
you.
Patty.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, who moved on that? I don't know that there was a motion.
I'll make a
To
motion.
approve.
I motion that we approve the Newbury Police Department as the lead grant agency on the Massachusetts Jail/Arrest Diversion Grant.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The town administrator's report. David, do you have a small one? Or anyone?
I do have one, I don't know, you tell me if it's gonna be small. I think the first thing up we can discuss tonight, Martha Taylor, our planning director, has some news. Martha, I will turn it over to you if you'd like to make any kind of statement, if not.
Jeez, I wasn't expecting to do that.
Okay, so Martha has announced her retirement from the town of Newbury, effective at the end of this fiscal year. So we will greatly miss her, and she's been wonderful, at least for me, getting up to speed and coming on board here, so I can't say any more good things, but
This fiscal year, did I hear
This-
that right?
yes.
A month.
So June 30th, 24.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a nice summer.
Hopefully so.
We'll miss you,
Thank you.
Miss you very, very much.
even though
We are not gonna know what to do without
yeah. that's true.
saying,
We'll
let's
miss you.
ask Martha.
Where's Martha? That's what's gonna happen.
Martha, what do you?
No, it's not been an easy decision for me, but
Just
Martha,
get another
thank you.
dog.
Thank you for all that you have done.
Oh my
I
God,
know it's
yeah.
been
You-
monstrous.
She's been a great mentor
Oh,
to
gosh, yeah.
many of us. And I appreciate the time that I spent on the planning board and the kindness and the knowledge that was shared with me in an open and kind way.
Oh, that's so nice, Leslie.
And it made me brave to get up here and do this now. But it was a great beginning to something I thought I would never, ever do in my entire life. And the entire planning board, but you at the helm, just made it that much easier for anybody that was gonna come through the ranks. And I thank you very, very much.
well, thank you for that. And I thank the board for all your support over the years. I mean, it's just been incredible being here and working here and having the support of you all and the planning board and our great team of coworkers here. It's just,
I think we have to memorialize a little bit how long it's been. 2001, right?
well, I started in 2008, I started working.
But we were on the board then, right?
Well, 99.
Wasn't I on first?
Yeah, this argument all the time.
So
You
anyway,
started in 1999
Well, I
volunteering.
was, Jeff got me on the open space committee.
that's what it was,
And
yeah.
then from there, I was on the planning board, and then I got Jeff on the planning board. And then he's moved up since.
Well, we've all learned a lot, and let me tell you, it's been a process, so.
It's a great loss.
When you
We'll
take-
miss you so very much.
When you take and talk about new blood, it's good. And then when you talk sometimes about old blood, it's important because you've really grown with the town and seen what the town is, so Martha, you've done a great job. And Kristen will do a good job also.
You've raised her
And
well.
hopefully you can help her for a while and stay a little while, it'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, I'd be very happy to continue working part-time or on a consultant basis.
I'm sure she has you on speed dial.
So,
That's great.
Congratulations, Martha.
Thank you, Martha.
You
Career
know
well
what,
done.
you are so gonna enjoy it.
Okay, David, anything else?
Sure. The library has two new hires, William Allen, a library associate in circulation, and Corey Owen Beauchesne, a library associate for youth services. So those are two good hires. Collective bargaining for the library is ongoing. I did want to alert the board that there's a FLAP grant that we received. It's Federal Land Access Program that will study the Newbury, it's a planning grant really that studies the Newburyport Turnpike for more resilient approaches to what we should do in the future, so no potential action right now. But we'll see what they come up with and what we get back. Martha is instrumental in that and her division has been working on it, obviously. And then the last thing was, we were approved for a heavy commercial vehicle exclusion on Larkin Road that was applied for following, I think it was a town meeting vote, I don't recall the year. More to come on that, but that was just to update the board. They're rarely approved, honestly, I've never seen one before, so we did get that approval, so there'll be more to come for the board going forward, but just to alert you that that'll be down the road.
Great.
And that's it.
David,
Thank you.
can I ask maybe through you, Martha, the FLAP grant, which is for vulnerability or something, but whatever, can we move that towards getting any understanding of whether we would have more commercial retail space orientation on Route 1?
Well, this is actually for, just to provide a little background, this was actually something that was originally initiated by Mayor Reardon and Matt Hillman at the Refuge. And Newburyport actually has the grant, but we are kind of taking the lead, and Kristen has really taken over on this, taking the lead to move this forward, working with John Eric White, who's the engineer in Newburyport, to put together a request for proposals for an engineer to do this, but it's specifically looking at the Plum Island Turnpike, Sunset down to the Refuge, and Plum Island Boulevard to, the center, in terms of resiliency. And it's kind of an offshoot of the Plum Island Sea Level Rise project that we had a few years ago. One of the recommendations was to look at access to the island because as with climate change, sea level rise, king tide, all of that stuff, it will be underwater more and more, so.
And I apologize, I may have
Perfect.
said
Yeah,
Newburyport
right.
Turnpike.
Yeah, it's fine. Now I understand what it is, so.
The other turnpike.
And the Refuge has monies available, don't they, at some point to maybe raise the road?
That I don't know. I mean, this
Yeah.
really is, specifically, it's a federal grant looking at how to maintain access to federal lands, basically, and that's what
That's
allows
what I
us
meant,
to do
because
that.
they supposedly have a pretty good pile of money to keep their access roads above water throughout the country.
Yeah, so this is the first step
And
to
this is the first
look at
step,
options.
perfect, nice job.
And also to look at sort of multimodal, if there are any ways of increasing bicycle access, pedestrian access, all of that, as well as the resilience component of it.
Perfect.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, so we have some correspondence. There's a right to farm disclosure on 18 Old Farm Way. So I'm just gonna read this. We have two of them. In accordance with section 4 of the Newbury Right to Farm bylaw, the owners of real property located at 18 Old Farm Way, Newbury, Mass. Hereby presents the following notification. It is the policy of Newbury to conserve, protect, and encourage the maintenance and improvement of agricultural land for the production of food or other agricultural products, and also for its natural and ecological value. The disclosure notification is to inform buyers or occupants that the property they are about to acquire or occupy lies within a town where farming activities occur. Such farming activities may include, but are not limited to, activities that may cause noise, dust, or odors. Buyers and occupants are also informed that the location of property within Newbury may be impacted by commercial agricultural operations, including the ability to access water services for such property under certain circumstances. The right to farm disclosure notification was presented to the prospective buyer or occupant by the undersigned not later than 21 days after the purchase and sale contract was entered into, or prior to the sale or exchange of real property if no purchase and sale agreement exists for the purchase or exchange of real property, or prior to acquisition of the leasehold interest or other possessory interest in the property. In all circumstances, this disclosure notification must be presented to the grantee prior to the recording of any deed or other instrument of conveyance of real property, all violations of the town's right to farm bylaw, including the failure to present this disclosure notification to a prospective buyer or occupant is subject to a fine of $300. So this was presented on 4/23/2024 by Yerby Morrison and William Morrison. Okay, that was one. The second one is 12 Cottage Road. This was in accordance, disclosure, in accordance with Section 4 of the Newbury Right to Farm bylaw, the owner of the real property located at 12 Cottage Road, Newbury, Mass. Hereby presents the following notification. It's gonna be all over again, but I'm gonna read it anyways. It is the policy of Newbury to conserve, protect, and encourage the maintenance and improvement of agricultural land for the production of food or other agricultural products, and also for its natural and ecological value. This disclosure notification is to inform buyers or occupants that the property they are about to acquire, occupy lies within a town where farming activities occur. Such farming activities may include, but are not limited to, activities that may cause noise, dust, or odors. Buyers and occupants are also informed that the location of property within Newbury may be impacted by commercial agricultural operations, including the ability to access water services for such property under certain circumstances. This right to farm disclosure notification was presented to the prospective buyer or occupant by the undersigned not later than 21 days after the purchase and sale contract was entered into, or prior to the sale or exchange of real property, if no purchase or sale agreement exists for the purchase or exchange of real property, or prior to the acquisition of a leasehold interest or other possessory interest in the property. In all circumstances, this disclosure notification must be presented to the grantee prior to the recording of any deed or other instrument of conveyance or real property interest. All violations of the town's right to farm bylaw include the failure to present this disclosure notification to a prospective buyer or occupant are subject to a fine of $300. And this was at 12 Cottage Road, is the owner, CBC LLC. Okay. We also received a letter from Triton regarding the Massachusetts School Building Authority Statement of Interest. Was received, thank you for submitting a 2024 Statement of Interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA, electronically. Please note the district's submission is not yet complete if the district selected statutory priority 1 or statutory priority 3. If either of these priorities were selected, the district must postmark and submit to the MSBA by the core program SOI filing period closure date, the required supporting documentation to the MSBA, which is described below. Additional documentation is required for SOI statutory priorities 1 and 3 in order to be considered complete. The district selects statutory priority 1, replacement or renovation of a building which is structurally unsound or otherwise in a condition seriously jeopardizing the health and safety of the school children, where no alternatives exist. The MSBA requires a hard copy of the engineering or other report detailing the nature and severity of the problem in a written professional opinion of how imminent the system failure is likely to manifest itself. The district also must submit photographs of the problematic building area or the system to the MSBA. The SOI will not be considered complete unless this information is provided. If the district selects statutory priority 3, prevention of a loss of accreditation, the SOI will not be considered complete until a summary of the accreditation report focused on the deficiencies as stated in the SOI are provided. In addition to the information required above, the district may also provide reports, pictures, or other information they feel will give the MSBA a better understanding of the issues identified at a facility. The additional documentation must also be postmarked and submitted to the MSBA by the core program SOI filing period closure date. So that's what Triton did. They submitted another statement of interest to the school building authority. You can see where that one goes.
So that's no different really than the first one.
Right, they weren't denied.
Separate,
I think
yep.
they've only had one so far. This is the
Yeah.
second. Yeah, this is the second.
This will be the second.
The attachment says it's Whittier Vocational, this package.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought it was.
Yeah,
That's what I
it was
thought too.
Whittier. Yeah, I'm sorry, that was me. Triton's is coming. This was Whittier. This is the second one that Whittier has submitted.
So
Yeah, I didn't go this
they're
step
just
further.
alerting us, they're not asking for our vote, are they?
No, they've submitted it again.
Yeah.
And now we'll see where this goes.
That's interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
they have to do something.
It's really interesting. It says, is this a potential consolidation? And the response is no.
Well, it was
Potential new school.
It was supposed to be a consolidation and the state paying for it with one of the colleges.
Well, they talked about that.
So it doesn't look like it's gonna be.
I believe
So
this was,
Going backwards.
yeah, this is all of it. I think this is, I don't know. I didn't think it was a whole new building. I thought they were just going to,
I mean, it's sorry.
Huh?
It's likely that they might have just applied to hold their spot, as it were, while they discuss with North Shore, just to keep the ball rolling one way or the other.
Earth and Essex,
Good.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
You made us feel better.
What's that?
You made us feel better.
Good.
okay. Okay, so that's that. Okay, meeting updates. Are there any meeting updates? I have some. Jeff, do you have any meeting updates?
I'm pretty good, I can't think right now.
Well, we all did the DCC last week,
Yes.
which was.
Do you want to speak to that?
Well, it was really informative. I thought both Melissa and Erica did a very good job in explaining it a little bit more in a layman language type of situation, so that people were able to understand it. And I thought the discussion afterward was really informative
Just
as
tell
well.
Leslie, tell them what it is that you're discussing.
The
Alternative assessment.
The alternative assessment is going to, they're looking at a 5-year rolling, I know what it is. Rolling plan, but it could, we could be looking at a 3%, a 5%, and a 7% increase over a 5-year period. But it's to keep the budget in more acclimated form than not knowing what we're gonna be doing. And we're trying to put it together earlier than
And
expected.
we found out that, you can, go ahead, you've got it.
But earlier than, we're trying to get it on the agenda earlier than normally it has taken, and
And we'd understand a little more ahead of time what everyone's exposure would be, but what we found out, and you can take it if you want it, but what we found out, if you really dig into the alternative assessment, you can have losers and winners.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be a really good way to go.
So the pie's only so big.
Pie's only so big, and it also, if you wanna put it into kind of a, being able to understand it, do you remember the old variable rates for mortgages? That's kind of where it falls into. So you don't know year after year where you're going to, how much the increase of the budget is gonna
The
be.
statutory method is what it is,
Statutory measure,
and there doesn't seem to be anything else right now from what we heard at that meeting, and Alicia, you correct me if I'm wrong, or Bill, but it seems like that's not particularly a good solution either.
So the pie's only so big, and if the school I'm just gonna say, because I'm not even gonna take into account chapter 70 monies that come from the state, just assume that we're paying for the whole thing. We're not, but just assume that. What they looked at, and it's on, Dana, I know you weren't able to make it, but it's online, if you wanna go watch it, it's very good. I strongly recommend that you go watch it, and anybody that wants to watch it, it's on the Triton site. It's up now.
5 years of history.
They looked at a 5-year rolling average. So if you
it used to
average
be
it out,
3, right?
at one time it was 3 prior, I think in the 70s. But
That failed too.
so they changed it because it was a failure. So they looked at the alternative assessment instead of the statutory method, which is required by Massachusetts general laws, was they took a 5-year rolling average and they looked at they looked backwards 5 years and looked at if we had used the rolling average, what would it have looked like, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. And the money is the money, it costs what it costs. It's just shifting who's paying for what. So over time, over the 5 years, you look at it, Newbury had to pay a little bit more, Raleigh had to pay a little bit more, and Salisbury got a $1.4 million discount because it just trended it over the 3 communities differently. And Frank Visconti, is a member of our finance committee, was there, and he couldn't figure out.
Dead on arrival, he said.
Dead on arrival. How can you sell that at town meeting? You'd have to go to a town meeting, explain to town meeting members, yes, we're going to pay more. These students do not reside in our town. We're subsidizing the rest of the district. But it's good because we'll get predictability and we'll be able to know what our numbers are and be able to know how to budget. And that's DOA. I think Frank's kind of right on that one. It's DOA at town meeting.
It's gonna be one of those things that you really have to sit back, look at it, reread it, digest it, and see what you're most comfortable with. But one of the things though is, if we do take on the 5-year, that if it doesn't get voted on, we can jump back to the original formula.
Statutory method. So what was interesting about this is it looks at, the alternative assessment looked at predictability.
Fairness.
Right, so, considering the alternative assessment method, it would make the town assessment swings less volatile, so you'll have more predictability, it won't be that big high. Like this year, Newbury had $700,000 increase over last time, so it'll make them less volatile. It's a simpler and easier to understand formula, cause it's simple, we created, it's simple. It's predictable. It's very predictable, you'll know pretty much what you're gonna do every single year. And is it fairer to communities? It's really not fairer to communities, because now 2 communities are underwriting a third. Happens to be the way it falls out now. So the alternative assessment looks at those 4 things. Unfortunately, it doesn't achieve all 4 things. You can get 2 out of the 3, but you can't get, because the pie's only so big. It's just a matter of how you spread it.
It was
pretty much it?
And it was very, very, it was explained so easily.
Erica's very good at visualizing data.
Narissa was
And
good.
Narissa was,
Yeah, Narissa explains the whole, she understands the statutory method of the funding formula.
she was blowing my mind on some of that
Yeah.
stuff.
And so I'm gonna just interrupt this for a minute, because we had an MMA meeting today and we discussed chapter 70 at the state level. And in the budget that came out of the Senate, there are 2 items in that budget that looks at the chapter 70 formula. They're gonna study that, there's gonna be a study committee, Senator Lewis from Winchester that wrote the Student Opportunity Act. He is the head of the education committee right now, he is going to form a study committee. The budget that comes out of the Senate asks him to do that, provides a vehicle for that. And the other thing that's coming out of this budget is they're going to look at a municipal buildings, public safety and municipal building authority, like the school building authority. They're gonna study that for police, fire, town halls, DPWs, to provide state funding for those projects as well. So they're gonna study that.
If they do as well with the schools, we won't expect anything.
Well, one of the things, what do you mean, the school building authority?
No, I'm talking chapter 70, if they do as well with that.
Well, no, this is the school building authority, so there's 2 separate things, there's capital and there's operating.
But I'm just saying.
So there's momentum at the state level with this, because it's affecting people more and more now. So that was good news.
But we really haven't been receiving much of anything out of chapter 70.
But it hasn't been the same since 2002 or something.
Yeah.
Right, but that's not only us, that's
No.
everybody.
Right.
So everybody's feeling the pinch, and so everybody's starting to scream. And what the legislative aide said that, which she found interesting, is for the first time since she's been working with the MMA, she was in the Senate listening to them orate about what bills and amendments they wanted to pass. And everybody that talked about chapter 70 was singing the same song that we've been singing, or that I've been screaming at the MMA level. It's affecting them all now. So now there's been we used to only be a few towns, and now it's getting more and more, so it's getting louder and louder. So there's hope that there'll be something kind of a fix to this, because it has to, it's unsustainable.
And the fact of the matter of, the price per student has changed dramatically.
Yeah, so the cost per student was $104, I think they bumped it to $110.
110.
Per student, so
That's a
that's
lot.
gonna go up, that's big. But more importantly is that wealth component has to be
Yes, because we're rich.
the ability to pay.
They've all decided that we're like super wealthy here in Newbury. We just don't know how to get rid of our money fast enough.
There you go.
On the alternative assessment, I'm sorry I wasn't there, I really wanted to go. We're not gonna have the option though of going back
Going back to what?
to where we're at right now.
Yeah, no, that we can go
Statutory.
back from the alternate to the.
If you
sta-
choose
But
not to-
once it starts rolling, it's, looking over a 5-year period, once it starts rolling, for example, one town, we're gonna be, obviously, there's only so much money, we're gonna be sharing the cost. 1 year, one town might get a better deal, and then the next year, when they don't get although it's predictable, right?
It is predictable.
It's gonna be
But
predicted.
the
But it
interesting
needs a
thing about,
unanimous
But how would
vote,
we go back?
because
to-
but if
to
you
what
have
we're
an
doing now?
alternative, well, the statutory method that we currently only requires 2 out of 3 towns approve it. If we go with an alternative assessment,
I know it's 3.
it has to be all 3, and it'll be dead on arrival, because
Neither.
can you imagine it passing? I can't see it passing.
No.
So, and if it doesn't pass, the alternative assessment, you automatically by law have to go back to the 2-step
Of
method.
course.
So that's when you say you can't go back,
But you
you can go
are
back.
able to have the choice. So if.
If you have an
But from
alternative
year to
assessment,
year, that doesn't make any
And it
sense.
doesn't get passed with a unanimous vote, you can go back with like a special town meeting and go back to the statutory.
If you have all 3 towns.
We only need 2/3
In
with the
case it's way
statutory.
out of work, if we ever went this, which we're not gonna go, if it was absolutely
Hypothetically,
not working so badly that all 3 towns wanted to vote it down, they could. So, in that 1 year.
Yeah,
so-
there is a choice there.
And it was supposed to be billed as just another tool in your toolbox. If you wanted to look at it through the alternative assessment, if it helps and you think you could pass it, great. If not, you automatically have to go back to the 2-step method anyways. And I know when we were looking at this years ago, before, there are other communities across the state that have alternative assessments.
sure.
They just don't use them.
And they have
Because-
they talk about
The
circuit
circuit
breakers
breakers.
and other stuff, but it's just, probably statutory is the amount of students you have in the schools and your ability to pay. It's about what it amounts to.
Right.
It's easy to explain.
And the thing is, when you go to an annual town meeting and you're trying to explain this rolling 5-year budget, most people are gonna stand up and go, I don't wanna do that. I
Well-
just wanna stay with what I see is what I get.
Well, what people are gonna be afraid of, if it's explained well, is that your town could be subsidizing another town.
Mm-hmm.
And we had enough trouble.
I think those feelings are already running around right now.
I think you're right.
You know,
But Frank was so spot on with, I'm gonna be in the DOA club. It's like, okay. But,
Well, you have to be able to-
it's good to know all of the different methods that you can use and feel educated to vote in the way that you want to, but
Well, look at it. If you don't look at it, you don't know. So
No.
you gotta look at it every once in a while.
and
Now, there could be another formula that nobody thought of that would be better. But again, the pie's only so big.
hey, you have an account. You have a degree in accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Get on that.
No, that's okay.
What that
The
night,
pie's only so big, that's my accounting degree.
what that night did, however, is because of the work not only Erica did, but Narissa, I've heard this so many times in my lifetime of being involved. And then I learned again some things I didn't know when Narissa especially did her presentation. So it's always, it was well done.
It was very well done.
Okay, review and approve meeting minutes. Draft minutes from 4:23. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'd make a motion to approve, but we need to make a modification on 423, on page 3.
Well, hold on. So let's amend. So you're gonna, you motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to approve.
There's a
Are we
second,
doing
okay.
just, 23, or are we doing 13?
Well, we're gonna do the first one.
23.
23.
423, motion to approve.
Okay, Bill, you have an amendment?
Yeah, page 3, officer appointments. The discussion reads, Leslie Matthews questioned what Mr. White's will his facility be as far as role. I think it's, what is his role? What Mr. White's role will be, I think is what Leslie wants to know.
You're probably right.
It's just a minor thing, but
It's clearer.
it didn't make sense.
Okay, any other amendments to this? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then a motion to approve the select board minutes from May 13th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to sign warrants.
Motion sign warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, is there a second?